On today's show, we are talking about the pitching assessment process that Darrel uses at Athletic Mission Baseball Academy in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Hey guys, welcome back to Strategic Baseball Podcast. Hey man, the feedback that we've been getting since we launched this podcast just a couple weeks ago have been great, and we really do appreciate it, and we look forward to more of it. And please don't hesitate to let us know your thoughts, as it keeps us going and gives us an understanding as if this is resonating or not. So on today's show, we're going to talk about the assessment process that we use here at Athletic Mission Baseball Academy in Tulsa, Oklahoma for pitchers. And then the next episode, we'll break down the hitting assessment. Geoff and Darrel here, and we help baseball players get to the next level with a strategic advantage so that they can play with supreme confidence against the best players at any level. In every episode, we promise to deliver value on the strategic side of player development to help your players compete with players just as good, if not better than them. So today we're going to talk about the assessment process that we take our pitchers through at Athletic Mission in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where Darrel and I operate out of. And let's remember that Darrel's a pitching strategist, I'm a hitting strategist, and this is Strategic Baseball Podcast. If you are interested in joining our circle, head over to strategic-baseball.com, which you can also find in the show notes, and submit your email to always get a reminder each time we release a new episode, weekly tips from Darrel and I, and a PDF transcription and visual of the previous episode, and much more. If you are a player, parent, or coach who is interested in learning more about how the strategic advantage baseball process works for your unique situation, please email me at Geoff@athletic-mission.com or Darrel at dc@startpitching.com, which you can find in the show notes. And we would love to arrange a time to talk with you and see how we can help. So Darrel, man, this show is all yours. Let's go ahead and let's talk about your assessment process that you use for your pitchers that you work with.
Yeah, Geoff, this is the piece that I think is the cool part about what we do when we truly just focus on individual player development and individual pitcher development. Because what we're really looking for is not the hardcore measurables that most coaches focus on. What we're looking for is really about where these kids are currently at, what we call a current state assessment. Because the truth is, what these kids want and what these young players want, what they want as individuals, is more important than the measurable itself. So when we start talking about individual player development, it really is about the individual player. And again, is it easy to make these raw, as we call competitive assessments, or these competitive advantage assessments? Yeah, that's the easiest piece. And is that real? That is absolutely real. And when these kids are trying out for teams at the JV or varsity level, or some of their summer ball select team level, yeah, that skill set is probably an important factor. And it is an important factor in going into what it's going to take to make that specific team. But ultimately, the type of players that we're getting here are really those guys that are pretty good athletes that are looking for that next level advantage. That strategic advantage is what we call it. So when we break it down, we really start with what we call pitching related activities. And we do that in season, preseason, off season. We want to know exactly everything that this player is currently doing, what coaches they're working with, who they're working with, what kind of mechanics program, if they're doing any type of velocity program, and really just kind of getting an idea of what they're doing and where they're at, and what the expectations are of the parents, the players, the coaches that they're currently playing for, and then kind of how we seam that together. Because what we don't want here is us to create confusion for that player. And we don't want to create any more drama between coaches and what that player's expectations or vice versa, what the coach's expectations is for that player. So really what we see in these initial assessments is kind of a blend, because most of the kids come in and see us. We see two really, and it's kind of the stereotypical type of players. You got kind of the athletic, hard throwing type of the kid that's really got type of a genetic advantage for his age, or he's a bigger kid and he's a pretty good athlete and he can throw hard for his age, but they struggle with consistently commanding their fastball. When it's on, they're really good. When it's not, then they're really bad. They seem like they're always behind in the count. They're walking way too many hitters and really is having higher pitch counts earlier in the game. And when we get that type of a pitcher, a lot of times, man, they're more comfortable throwing bullpens than they are in the game. And that's kind of what we talked about last episode. That transition from practice to pressure is ultimately the true serum of baseball. It's going to be the key to your success is how you handle that. And that's really the focus of that strategic advantage baseball that we talk about all the time. And having that strategic advantage mindset is that bridge from our physical skill set into how we show up on game day, and then the stuff that we do in between it that really help us master our skill set, master our pitches, and then create a strategy with it, ultimately becomes who they are as a baseball player and the source of their confidence. Then the second type of pitcher we usually see is kind of the strike throwing control pitcher, which, it seems like is the big Twitter debate today is kind of, okay, will we rather have guys that throw hard or guys that throw strikes? And ultimately, it depends on what you're looking for. If you're just grading out and trying to project somebody's potential, then they probably want the harder thrower. If it's somebody that's got to go out and have success in today's game, then obviously if I got a great defense, I want the kid that's going to throw strikes and put the ball in play. But the problem we see with the strike thrower is they throw a lot of strikes, but their lack of velocity don't really scare hitters. And so when they start competing against better competition or a lineup that consistently is barreling them up and hitting balls hard, like I just said earlier, man, if you don't have a great defense, then that's where we see those kids really frustrated. And so when they come in, they're really looking for, how do I get either more velocity, how I start using my body better to create velocity, and then ultimately what they're looking for is how do they get more swing and misses. And then the final piece that we really try to drive, that third type of pitcher that we want these guys to evolve into, is what we call the dominating strategic pitcher, where they use their max velocity with command. And the way we define command at Athletic Mission is command is the choice you make before you throw the pitch. It's not the outcome. Command is, can I throw my pitches by velocity and movement to a specific location on purpose? And that's why here we throw really super focused, what we call boring practice bullpens, man. You got to understand how your pitches move. And so what we do when we throw pins here is we only practice our pitches. We don't make games out of the bullpen. We don't sit here when we're doing preseason pins and we're doing in-season pins. It's really about understanding how I command my pitches so I can have a strategy and create a strategy against any hitter. And so that's where we see this bridge, Geoff, that when we talk about, are we looking for projectability? Are we looking for game day success? And that's kind of that piece that we've been talking about for the last few weeks. When we talk about competitive advantage and your athleticism, your velocity, your mechanics, kind of, your practice habits and routines versus what is actually showing up on game day. And so when we start looking at that piece of it, that's kind of where we start the assessment process. We look at what is their current level of pitching related activities. Then we got what we call a unique pitching skill assessment, which is really kind of them walking through the 20 key pieces of what we think pitcher development's about and what do they feel like they have mastered from their individual pitches through their preseason, in-season, and all-season strength and conditioning program, through their preseason, in-season, all-season throwing program, and kind of really starting to plug in the different pregame routines, pre-pitch routines. See, all of this comes to be a part of ultimately who this pitcher becomes. And when we create that process from the competitive advantage into mastery through strategy, and then ultimately how's it showing up on game day, if we don't have those processes and we don't have those routines in place, how do we ever really know where to go back and start when we have guys that are struggling? And I think that's kind of how we deconstructed the individual pitcher development here at Athletic Mission. And once we get that pitching related activity, which breaks down everything they're doing in season, off season, and preseason, and then we really start looking at it individually and breaking it down by skill set, by pitch, by how we cover bases, field our position, all the way through all the components that really makes a complete pitcher, then I think it does let us go through and really see where these guys are at. And that's where we start at. Most of them don't have to start all over. They're not a blank slate, but we got to really find out where they're at and kind of really get their mind wrapped around that. Yeah, this physical skill set is important, but if it don't turn into a unique pitching skill or a unique pitch or a mastered pitch, then ultimately we're never going to be able to create a strategy that's going to work on game day. And so, again, I think that just kind of reinforces this complete pitcher process and how we assess guys. And what's cool about it, man, is it works for individual players no matter where they're at. We just got to be able to assess what they feel like they've mastered, what they don't have mastered, and then really kind of build out and fill in the gaps in their program. And what's cool, man, is this is a piece where when guys ask me all the time, man, or parents ask me, how do I get my son to be more competitive? Well, true competitiveness only comes, one, when they have a strategy, and two, when they're competing against guys that are good or better than them. See, that's competitiveness. When you're beating up on weaker competition, that's not competitiveness. That's you just dominating with a physical skill set. But when we talk about competitiveness, then when we put two teams out there that's got similar skill sets and they're both pretty good, then the one that goes out and has the better strategy and is able to handle the pressure and execute their game plan consistently, and then handle what we talked about last show, that game day execution piece, the confident adjustments and kind of their real-time reactions, how they respond to the different pieces that make up baseball, then I think it really does change their mindset, and it changes the concept of what they think they need to do now to truly become an elite level pitcher, man.
Yeah, man, very good stuff. So Darrel's assessment process, I personally have learned a lot from him on, and it allowed me to sit down and refine my own process that I use for hitters, which we're going to talk about in the next episode. So this was Athletic Mission Pitching Assessment. If you are finding any value in these episodes, please leave us an objective review, and also head over to strategic-baseball.com and join our circle. Darrel and I got some pretty cool stuff that we're working on, and we'll share it with you guys as we develop it. So thanks for listening in, and we'll catch you in the next episode, which we will break down Athletic Mission hitting process. We'll see you all then.